This is a brief demonstration of my new minimum quantity lubrication unit. I built it out of a SodaStream bottle with some parts here to bring in air at a reduced pressure with a regulator there. The air travels down one side through a hole and pressurizes the bottle. And then in the bottle there is a tube that reaches to the bottom that moves the liquid, pressurized liquid, up through this lower tube, while the upper tube continues to carry the airstream. So at this point we have pressurized liquid and air. I say pressurized, we're only talking about 20-30 psi at the regulator. Comes through this tubing. You can see my fancy 3D printed system there to hold the tubing in a nice convenient way. Comes up to this unit here, which has two of these very simple valve units. So the liquid comes in here, air comes in here. Each of them can be independently adjusted. The airstream comes in, picks up any liquid. It comes out not actually into this generic lock line type of stuff, but rather there is a tube inside here that this lock line is simply positioning that tube. That tube comes out to a nozzle here at the end there, and small hole in the end of that nozzle that can convey the air and liquid out. Notice one very important part of the overall system, and that is this ball valve. It is extremely convenient to be able to turn everything off with the ball valve without having to adjust the air and the liquid settings. That would be a pain to try to get those dialed back in every time, but instead the whole system can be shut off with the ball valve. I have hooked the air up to the SodaStream. I've put the bottle here in my very elegant holder, just a bucket for the moment. Eventually I may add something to hold it on the side of the Bridgeport, but at the moment just here. Let me turn the system on, and you can hear that it is doing something over here at the valve. You can see at the moment a very small amount of liquid is being produced. Let me turn the liquid entirely off. So now it is just air. I can adjust that up or down with this valve if I needed to, but of course I could also adjust that by adjusting the air regulator. So there's just a tiny bit of air. There's pretty much wide open. It is a little tricky to get the amount of liquid adjusted. It's a bit sensitive here. Let me actually turn the air all the way off at the valve, at this valve up here, and let me turn the liquid on, and you'll notice that you can get just liquid, just coolant coming through, being fed by the pressure. The hard thing is to get just a nice combination of the two, where there's just a little bit of liquid coming out, a nice little tiny bit, just enough to keep it cool and keep it lubricated without flooding everything. That seems to be a bit tricky. The way I've so far found to achieve that balance is to first start by turning on the air. You can see it blowing there. And then just very, very gradually turning on the liquid. Maybe too much air. Turn it down a bit. Turning on the liquid just a tiny bit at a time. This valve does not seem to be quite as finely adjusted as I would like, so I'm just barely, but you can see now that it's just beginning to wet the paper towel, so I'm just beginning to get a little bit of liquid flow in with the air, and that's getting me close. I'm now going to turn off the system at the ball valve, and let's machine something and see how it does. At this point, I've got the rotary converter on, and of course it's noisy. I'm going to turn on the system. In just a moment, I have a half-inch bit here, high-speed steel, ready to take a cut on the piece of steel that's in the vice jaws there. The cut is a fairly aggressive cut for what I usually do. It's a 1/4 of an inch deep in the Z. I'm going to set it to be 0.2, there we go, 0.2 of an inch of cut along the side of this piece of steel, and let's see how it does here with the coolant running on it. Just that, so that it hopefully gives me what I want. Turn down the liquid a little bit there. That's about what I want, just a little spit. Let's try it. As I mentioned, that was a pretty aggressive cut. You can see it's left a pretty sloppy piece behind there. I probably need a bit more coolant, but notice I can touch that. The bit is hot. I needed probably more coolant on that, but the steel is not hot at all. So it's already done a good job for what I would normally do. I'm going to turn up the liquid a little bit there again. I'm finding it a little hard to adjust this just right to give me what, but let me turn it on again and take a little bit more. I'm going to take 1/100 of a cut, 0.1 this time off that face, and I'll do it as a climb cut. Alright, still don't quite have that dialed in. I'm not getting as much liquid as I need, but there we go. Maybe that's about right. Let's try one more time. We'll take one more pass of 100. I'll try to get that dialed in, and I'll do a conventional cut this time. All right, got my liquid about right. Let's turn it off. Once again, beautiful cut on the bottom. Some stuff left behind here that's actually getting picked up from the powder coating and getting smeared on there. That's on the side of the piece, but that is not hot at all. I mean, it's just barely warm. And this time, the bit, it's warm. It's definitely uncomfortably warm, but I have enough liquid going on there that it is, enough coolant that it is cooling it. But as you can see, there is no mess. It's a little bit of liquid there, a little bit of soluble oil, but not bad at all. So it's not perfect. I wish the valve were a little bit easier to adjust, but I think this will improve my machine.